Hey there, welcome back. I'm Tara. I garden here at Wild Bird Farm. We are in Zone 5 in central Iowa. Today we're going to talk all about late summer and early fall blooms and bouquets. What we can be thinking about right now so we have plenty of things to harvest even after our first frost. Most of what I'm going to show you today falls into two categories. One is things I've been succession planting and will continue to succession plant up through early to mid-August. And then the second category is what I am planning in my tunnel to get us past that first frost time period. So we're just trying to push what they call the shoulder season. So all of these warm summer annuals that are out in the field, once we have the first frost, they are going to die back. That includes my dahlias, zinnias, celosia, sunflowers. When we hit that first frost, everything's going to die back and turn to mush. But if you have things under plastic, as I do in the high tunnel, you can push your season a few weeks past that first frost. So we're going to talk about late summer successions, what we can cut and use right up to the first frost, and then we'll see what I have planned and planted in the hoop house that's hopefully going to take us a few weeks past that first frost. So in late summer, things are often looking a little bit tired. So the name of the game is succession planting. And I'm going to show you 3 successions I have of zinnias right here in this area. You can see the blooms of the bright pink and the lighter pink. I have some queen lime varieties that's just starting to bloom a little bit farther down. And then behind the camera, I have my latest succession, what I put out probably 3 weeks ago now, that has some, I believe, oranges and reds that's going to take me up through the first frost. So let's get a closer look here. So these were planted out, I think, in late May. I definitely could have pushed the envelope a little bit more and had them out earlier. But I've been cutting on them for a few weeks now, and they're really starting to push blooms. We have had just an unprecedented amount of rain this season, and I don't know that the zinnias have absolutely loved all that rain, but I will say that we haven't had a horrible Japanese beetle season. In past seasons, this would have been completely wiped out by them. So I can't complain too much on that. So we have the 2 pink Benary's Giant varieties here, and then down here we have what I believe is the Queen Lime Red. And these are just starting to push blooms. And you can see I do have some Japanese beetles. That is the first one I've seen. I come out every evening with my soapy bucket. I hit these and the marigolds, the anise hyssop, the things that they really seem to love, and I knock them into water. But I definitely need to get my bucket out this morning. So that is my second little succession. Now the pink ones are going to continue blooming. Sometimes they get diseased, and I don't see too much of that so far. So hopefully we can continue harvesting these. And then over here is the newest succession. Again, I believe these are Benary's, some orange, and I think the wine. I need to get in here with my little hand weeder and get those weeds cleaned up. And I also need to get some Hortonova netting on this. But I'm planning for these to be my mid-September to our first frost varieties that I'll be able to use. Another annual that I am sure to succession plant is sunflowers. You've heard me say it before. If you're not planting them about every 2 weeks, the single stem, you've got to get on board with that. So I will take you off the camera. I think I have 5 successions here I can show you. The first one is done and we actually tarped it. And then you can see the second big succession is blooming, and then we kind of stair step down for later successions. This is just going to guarantee I have sunflowers from, I think I started late June this year, hopefully right up till our first frost. So let's take a bit of a closer look. So I dedicated the majority of this bed to sunflowers this year, and I progressed through from the Pro Cut White Light to the gold light, which have the light centers, and then I'll do more of the traditional sunflowers. There's one up here just starting, and then we'll do some Pro Cut plum as we get later into the season. I also grow a little bit of Pro Cut red, although those don't always do great for me. So this first tarped area, this was our first succession that has flowered and is done. Peep the kitty. I think we will plant one more succession here, so this bed will actually get flipped and be sowed again. I just direct sow sunflowers, but you can see the majority of these are the gold lights. If I don't catch them, I leave them for the pollinators. But then there's a lot in here that I will be picking for bouquets, for tomorrow's bouquets. This is the Pro Cut orange, just opening up. So we have lots of cuts here, and then within the next week or two, this row will be blooming. I believe these are the plums, and then I have some more orange down here. And then this succession, of course, will come later. These are mostly plums, I believe. My husband planted that one, so I'm not sure. But then we have, I believe I put plums and Pro Cut red in here, and those are just starting. Mahogany Splendor hibiscus, and then I needed a little bit room for a second go at amaranth. That's another one that I will start earlier, and then I'll direct sow another patch later. So this is a very dense patch that was sowed probably late June, I think, probably a month after the first one. But really happy with this plan for the sunflowers this year. Now I also do something similar with celosia in that quite a bit of this closer to me was seed I sowed and started indoors. Actually all of this and then all of that over here. So this is the Selway terracotta and I believe coral maybe here. And then I have a different variety over here, a little bit of basil that's looking really good. But then interestingly, this celosia down here, I direct sowed later, and look, it's actually taller and it's blooming a little bit later, but not too much. I really think you can get away with direct sowing celosia pretty easily. So a little bit of succession planning here, not too much. I didn't do any successions of cosmos this year. Of course you could. I've done that in the past to keep a little bit fresher for cutting. Another group of basil. My status has not liked all of this rain. I actually hacked it back maybe about a month ago, and it's starting to reflush, but we've had still tons of rain, so I'm just not sure about that. But as far as successions, I wanted to show you the marigolds. Now we're going to see some beetles probably because they really like this, and I haven't got my bucket out yet. But this is my initial succession. And then we took cuttings of marigolds, so that's how I got a lot of the second succession. You can see it shorter here. And then these are the white swan, I guess I should mention. And then I did start some orange, which is over here. So these are going to be our last succession. So this is just over a 25-foot row. And that is all I have for the marigolds. But I think it's going to be enough. They really put on the blooms. You can see a lot of buds on the white swan right now. And, you know, I don't really need or want necessarily the orange until the end of the season. So I think that's going to work out okay. And then, of course, I talked all about my Dahlia succession experiment. I would say it's pretty successful. I've been pulling blooms off of these first 2 or 3 rows now for a couple of weeks. Not tons of blooms, but enough for my mixed bouquets that it's been enough with the zinnias. We'll plan to do a full tour when everything's flowering, and I'll let you know what varieties I'm growing. but they've been liking all the rain as well. Our soil drains really well, so we don't really have any standing water out here where the flowers are. If you've been around for a while, these first few 3 rows I planted in early May, and then at the end of the month, so there's about 4 weeks in between, I planted these last rows. And most of these I'm not seeing any blooms on yet, so I think so far that succession has been working, and definitely something I'll be thinking about doing again, because I don't need generally this many dahlias all at one time. So I think it'll be kind of nice to use the lighter colors now and then transition into the reds and oranges later in the season. Directly behind us is what I'm calling my reseeder box. Just things that are perennial or reseed very well, that I'm not going to be tearing out or tarping after this year. I'm just going to let these perennialize or reseed each year. I did put down some buckwheat crop here, and I am tarping that. I think I'll put some chamomile down there to try and get it ready to get a really nice stand for next year. But I'm definitely excited about all the things I'll be able to harvest out of here without really doing much work year over year. Of course, as you're thinking about late summer and fall, you want to think perennials. 9-bark are some of my favorite. You saw some hydrangeas here in the beginning clips. Another one is sedum. I have a 25-foot row here of autumn joy, but there are tons of sedums for us to try in our flower bouquets. I would just mention, as you're looking at different varieties, make sure it's at least 24 inches tall. I would shoot for a little bit taller. Now you can see right now in early August, the sedum is a lime green here in zone 5, but very soon it will be putting on a hint of blush pink, and then it's going to turn darker throughout the season. And I have used it starting from this stage all the way through until after our frosts. Okay, so far we have talked about annual successions that can get you through to the end of the season, and a few perennials that you might want to think about that bloom later in the season or have good foliage that you can use throughout the year. Our last area here is season extension. So what can we plant in the hoop house in summer that will get us through past that first frost date? Now, this is a newer area for me. I haven't done a lot of this in the past, but I'm going to tell you what I have in the hoop, and then we'll go in and check it out. With all the rain and with me watering in here, there are a lot of mosquitoes in there. I get eaten head to toe whenever I'm in there. So we might make that quick, but I'm going to tell you what I have in there. So first we have snapdragons. Those bloomed really well here in early May. I've cut them back a couple times now, trying to keep them low, watered and fertilized, and I'm hoping for fall blooms. Now I believe they were group 2, so they like to flower a little bit cooler with cooler weather. So I'm hopeful that's going to work, but that is an experiment this year. I also have some heirloom mums or football mums. I brought in cuttings very late. I brought them in late May. Now I'm going to be able to keep those from year to year and multiply my supply. So it's definitely not a waste if I don't get a big harvest this year, but I'll show you how small the plants are. The cuttings are getting a little bit taller, but they haven't really bushed out. And the cuttings that I took are only a couple inches tall. So I'm not sure how many and if we'll see blooms. Again, all an experiment for this year. And then just last night I came out and I planted some stock. They are pretty small, but I am heading out of town for a week, and I'm really trying to minimize what I have in plug trays that someone's going to have to water. So I decided to put them in the ground. I think they'll be okay. They just need to keep getting water throughout the season. And then I have just a few, maybe like 12 or 15 straw flower. I want to plant that in here just to see if it blooms this fall. I'm not sure if it will. Those are pretty small. Something else that's great for season extension is ornamental kale or ornamental cabbage. I grew that last year just because of what we have going on this season and the timing of it. I'm not going to be growing that this year, but that's definitely a great option. I will do that again. I actually ordered seeds for next year already. And then I'm going to direct sow some calendula in here and just see how that does. My very first year flower farming in my old hoop, I had a little patch of calendula that probably put on flowers through November. Like the end of November, it was crazy. They weren't real tall, so I'm trying a tall variety, as tall as I can find in here, just to see if maybe those would supplement some blooms that I might get from the mums and the snapdragons later in the season. That's an experiment. I'll show you some of the foxglove is putting up really short stems, and I don't know if I would have cut that back harder if I could have got a later flush later into the late summer or fall. That's something to play around with. And then the final thing, I left my anemones in the ground. So I did a video where I pulled up my ranunculus, and in past years, I've always dug my anemone at the same time. But this year I saw on someone's Instagram that they had anemones for Thanksgiving one year, and they said they just left them in the ground, and then probably in August, mid to late August, they started watering them and they were blooming end of November. So I decided just to leave mine in the ground and do an experiment with them to see if I can get any blooms there. It's been getting watered when I've been watering the hoop house. But I don't see anything popping through the soil yet. They have all died back completely. So again, that's another experiment. All right, let's head in and take a look. All right, a little bit messy, a little bit weedy, kittens everywhere. This is the row of snapdragons. This is what they look like. I'm guessing I may have to cut them back one more time. And the reason why I say that is the blooms right now are pretty thin. Don't think they're really going to get tall enough for me to use, but I think if I cut them down and then when they start growing, when it's a little bit cooler in September, I'm hoping to get that flush of blooms. We've got eucalyptus that I'm going to try and overwinter. Here's the stock that was newly planted, about 100 there. Let's hop over. See our newest batch of kittens here. This is a foxglove, and I think I will, let's check one out. I think I will harvest a few of these for bouquets, but that was kind of a surprise. This is where the anemones are. I need to get in here and weed this. Those are all weeds. But then these are the mums. Princess, you want to show us the mums? So these are the cuttings here. I did already put 2 rows of netting on here in anticipation that they're going to bulk up, which I am not sure we're going to get there. All cuttings that I got in the mail, and then I took a few cuttings, and that is what these are down here. And I really just chopped the tops off of the cuttings I received, hoping to help them bulk up a little bit. And I think almost everyone survives. So mums are pretty easy to propagate, I'm finding out. And then I'll show you, I told you I had a few straw flowers, which really is just a few. I think there's, let's see, maybe 16 there. And then these 2 containers of cells is a garden mum that I've had for several years that I really like, that blooms really late. It's a mounded variety. It gets decently tall though. So I'm going to see how this does in the tunnel. So I'll be planting these out pretty soon, and I'll let you know how that works as a cut flower mum. Not sure it'll work, but I would love more in my landscape too, so I can use it there. Thanks for joining me today. Let me know what you love to grow for late summer and fall and season extension past your frost date. I am really trying to grow my shrubs and my perennials because those are easiest for me, but I definitely think doing some successions of hard-working annuals is also a great thing. All right, that does it for today. I'll see you guys next time.